Good afternoon to everybody. We'd like to thank Doreen Usden, a wonderful member, very involved in our shul and in the Emunah, for sponsoring the Dvar Torah on Parshat Shoftim. And it's for actually a bit of a sad occasions. For first of all, the first yortzat of her son Warren, Chaim Ze'ev Shalom, who passed away last year, and also for her husband, also both of them Zecher Tzadikim Livracha, Mordechai ben Kaddish Tzvi. They were both big Tzionim. I always tell the story about the late Mark, that when he after the 6-Day War, he had a neighbor who was like a constable, and he remarked to him, your guys did very well, or your chaps did something very well. And when Mark heard that about your chaps, in other words, how Israel did well in the 6-Day War, he felt that's the time that he decided, why should it be your chaps? He wants to be part of it, and that's when he started making plans on Aliyah. So may both of them have Aliyah Began Eden. This week's Parsha speaks about the national leaders of the Jewish people, amongst other laws of a national characteristic. For example, the laws of warfare. But amongst the Torah speaks about the various types of leaders and the division of leaders. It speaks about a king, it speaks about the Supreme Court, what we call the Sanhedrin of 70 elders. It speaks about the Kohanim, it speaks about the prophets, it speaks about Kohanim, it speaks about the leadership of the Jewish people. And I was thinking of this question: why is it that the tribe of Judah, or Yehudah, why was he chosen, he and his and all his descendants, to be the kings of Israel? If we would take two people, let's take who are the contenders to be a king? There's Yehudah and Yosef. Now, why was Yehudah chosen? If we look at the character, if we would accept, I would say, as almost as an axiom, that a king is a person who, first of all, rules over himself. He's a king over himself, as the Kuzari says, and then he's a king. He can be a king over others. If we look at let's look at the qualities of Yosef. His qualities of kingship. He went into Galut, into Egypt at a very, very young age, about 17. He was a very handsome, beautiful man. He was subjected to the seductions of his master's wife on a daily level, in a place which was worse and more decadent than California, San Francisco, whatever country or city you think is decadent. And this young person, so far from home, but no connection with his home, no connection with anyone who was remotely connected to the standards of Kedusha that he was in his home to the young age. And such a person able to withstand that type of temptation and test, not as a one-off, but on a daily level. And in fact, the Midrash says that when 13 years later, he was crowned as the viceroy of Egypt, and the Torah tells us that, for example, that Paro put on his neck, he put like a necklace. So the Midrash goes into all the parts of the body and says the neck that wouldn't rise up or wouldn't tilt itself to look at his master's wife, so let that neck now be crowned with some jewelry of royalty. And so it goes through the other parts of his body which managed to resist. So a person like Yosef was a person who really controlled at total control over himself. And not only did he have such a state of kingship and such a state of greatness in his chalomot, in his dreams, the most incredible thing about Yosef was that his largesse, that even despite what his brothers did to him, to sell him into the cruelty of it, to sell him into slavery, and then to turn around and to say that he to able to control himself, to not have any feelings of revenge, and to turn around and to say to the brothers, you thought that you sent me to slavery, but not. You were just merely shlichim. You are just agents to bring about the plans of Hashem. I mean, isn't this kingship at its best? And yet he's got a minor. I mean, the king of Shaul comes from him, but he's only the temporary king. Or we speak about Mashiach ben Yosef, who's also like a temporary Mashiach. But ultimately, we speak about Mashiach ben David, who comes from Judah. And Judah, in the blessing of Yaakov and Moshe, both of them conferred upon Judah the crownship of kingship. So why was this so? It's very, I found it hard to understand. And maybe the reason is because of what Yehuda had was two things that Yosef didn't have. The first one is that it must have been not only courage, because Yosef also had that courage, but it was a courage mixed with tremendous humility. Because for him, can imagine like this scene. His daughter-in-law is accused of fathering someone who was not from her husband. And Yehuda then, in a public, I mean, this was a public, this was not something that was a type of court case that was held behind closed doors. He publicly announced that he was the father. It was he that was with Tamar. And not only that, the way that he said it, it's not that, like some people in New York have to resign because they've got no, they've been accused and they've got no brera. I mean, here Tamar said she sent him the signs, which in a discreet way, left it up to him. Do you want to reveal? You don't want to reveal. But not only, so to get back to the point, not only did he have this courage to publicly admit, but look at the language that he used. What he said was that Satka Mimeni, she's correct. She, the young woman who dressed up as a harlot, and that she was like the underdog. He, Yehuda, was the all-powerful. And then not only say, well, I did it, what can you do? He said, I did it, I'm wrong, and she is more correct than I. She's a more righteous woman than I am. That's not only incredible courage, but incredible also humility. And to be a king, to be a leader, because the leader has to be, as the Rambam calls him, Lev Kol Yisrael, the heart of the Jewish people. So therefore, he has to be the heart of the Jewish people, totally humble with the Jewish people, and that is what makes a king. What Yosef unfortunately didn't have, and here comes the second part, which is it needs a lot of clarification, but what Yosef, with all his righteousness and his greatness, he didn't have the acknowledgement of his brothers. I found that actually very sad, that after everything that they did to him, how he actually saved them as brothers, as a nation, as he saved them economically from absolute distress, that he was able to provide them, to make way for the Jewish people to come to Egypt. He gave them the best of the lands. He showed them that the dreams were true. With everything that he did, he wasn't accepted. Why he wasn't accepted? I don't know, but that's a fact. And on the other hand, as the Torah tells that Yehuda Yoducha Achicha, when it came to Yehuda, his word went. His word was accepted. They accepted his type of kingship. So of course, we need now the these two components. If people would accept a Rasha as a king, that's not accepted according to the halacha. The fact that people, if a king would be unethical, he would be a disgrace. The fact that people give him a clap, that's not considered to be kingship in the Jewish view. And that Badai is not only is not an ideal king, it's not a king at all. The fact that people just acknowledge and give a full-throated thanks to someone, that doesn't make him ipso facto a leader. Might be making him an unethical person who just happens to have a following, but that's not considered to be a king. A king is someone who, as the Rambam says, who reflects the words of the Torah. He's almost, so to speak, he's carrying out Hashem's will. He's supposed to direct the people to do Hashem's will in the world. So there we have it. We asked the question: what makes a king a king? The basic quality of a king is that he can rule over himself. If a person can rule over himself 100%, then he can begin to rule over others. And the other part that he says is the courage and humility combined with the fact that when the people have got these qualities, he also has humility. So then that's the type of kingship that Bezrat Hashem will be Zoche one day to govern Eretz Yisrael. Shabbat Shalom Lekula.